Dementia and Alzheimer's disease are something we all fear. Sometimes our everyday habits and simple lifestyle choices can dramatically lower our risk. Today we are going to look at 7 surprising factors and find out what sweating, snoring, your spouse, and even no speaking have to do with dementia. Right now, Alzheimer's disease can only be definitely diagnosed after death by examining brain tissue. And that brain looks drastically different from a healthy one. In it, scientists find senile plaques, beta amyloid protein outside neurons, and neurofibrillary tangles of tau protein inside them. It sounds complicated, but here's the breakdown. Neura means inside the neuron. Fibrillary means thread-like. Here's what it looks like. These proteins build up in the brain during Alzheimer's, and according to the main hypothesis, this accumulation disrupts the way neurons work, interfering with how signals are transmitted. On top of that, beta amyloid also damages blood supply to the brain by depositing in blood vessels and capillaries. The result of all this protein junk piling up in the brain is dramatic. People gradually lose essential brain functions: memory, emotions, speech, recognizing, sleep, and even movement. It's a frightening prospect. So, what are some unusual and surprisingly simple habits that may affect your risk of developing Alzheimer's disease? Let's dive in. Nose picking. It turns out that certain bacteria such as Chlamydia pneumoniae, which normally live in our respiratory tract, can actually make their way into the brain through the nasal lining, traveling along the olfactory and trigeminal nerves. It's a facial nerves. Once inside the brain, they appear to trigger an immune response that could be the release of beta amyloid, which binds to these bacteria in an attempt to neutralize them. Research has shown that amyloid accumulates precisely in the area with the highest concentration of bacteria, and the first to suffer are the brain's olfactory regions. It's interesting that loss or changes in the sense of smell are among the earliest symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. So, picking your nose with unwashed hands may bring in bacteria that can travel directly to your brain via those nerves. If the nasal lining is damaged, whether from frequent nose picking or from chronic dry rhinitis, bacteria can penetrate even more easily into the smell sensing area. So, wash your hands regularly, keep nails trimmed, and avoid nose picking. Don't give bacteria a shortcut to your brain. The next one is healthy gums and proper dental care. It's not just chlamydia that can sneak into the brain via the nerves. Other bacteria can do the same, like those responsible for gum inflammation. The mechanism is very similar. If your gums are inflamed, bacteria that cause this inflammation, this one, can travel to the brain where they trigger beta amyloid buildup. In fact, these bacteria are much more frequently found in the brains of people with Alzheimer's disease compared to healthy people. Even more striking, studies show that in people with cardiovascular disease, this bacteria is found colonizing arteries in 100% of cases, which means it may also play a role in heart disease. So if your gums are sore, bleeding, or if your dentures are irritating your mouth and causing inflammation there, it's time to see your dentist. Oral health doesn't just impact your digestion, gut health, and nutrient absorption. It's now clear that it also affects your risk of dementia. It's time to bury the hatchet with your dentist, whether you dislike or fear them, and start taking proper care of your teeth and gums. Surprisingly, studies show that people who get regular flu shots are significantly less likely to develop Alzheimer's disease. It seems that frequent seasonal infections like colds and flu may increase the risk of dementia. So even if you are absolutely against getting vaccinated, it still makes sense during flu season to wash your hands more often, air out your home, and protect your airways in crowded places. The goal is simple: strengthen your immune system and get sick as little as possible. Research shows that people with sleep disorders are more likely to develop Alzheimer's. And the reverse is also true. Insomnia and poor sleep are very often in the early stages of dementia and may accelerate the disease progression. The connection appears to be two-way. On the one hand, a damaged brain can't generate proper sleep rhythms and cycles, since sleep itself is a product of brain activity. On the other hand, without quality sleep, the brain begins to deteriorate and dementia develops. Snoring, and especially sleep apnea, when a person snores and then suddenly stops breathing like that, are serious sleep disorders that can contribute to Alzheimer's. They also place a heavy burden on the heart and reduce oxygen supply to the brain, which makes the situation even worse. Snoring isn't just an annoyance for your partner, it's dangerous for you. The treatment can involve losing weight, avoiding alcohol, especially before bedtime, and restoring proper sleep hygiene, so you can sleep without sleeping pills. Both alcohol and sedatives make snoring worse. And if you want to learn more about restoring healthy sleep, subscribe to my channel. I'll cover that in an upcoming video. Don't forget to hit the bell so you don't miss it. Here we are talking about the herpes virus. Types such as herpes virus 6A and 7 appear to stimulate beta amyloid accumulation in the brain. These viruses are found more often in people with Alzheimer's compared to healthy older adults. One study even showed that when herpes combines with the varicella zoster virus, the one that causes chickenpox and shingles, the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's increases further. It's possible that in the future we'll have a list of viruses and bacteria that can trigger Alzheimer's, similar to today's tests for cancer-causing strains of human papillomavirus, HPV. After all, almost all of us carry herpes and HPV. The real question is which strains are more dangerous and which are relatively harmless. Maybe someday vaccines against herpes and chickenpox will also help prevent dementia. Treating herpes, however, isn't very effective. About 90% of humanity carries it for life. It's been with us since prehistoric times, like since ancient people invented kissing, I suppose. Even when the virus is treated during flare-ups, it never fully leaves the body. Here's the key point. Normally, the brain is protected from most viruses and bacteria by the blood-brain barrier, a filter made up of vessel walls and brain tissue layers. It blocks harmful substances, many medications, and most microbes from entering nerve cells. But as we age, this barrier weakens. Due to high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, diabetes, strokes, and microstrokes. At the same time, the immune system grows weaker. As a result, more viruses and bacteria manage to reach the brain. The brain tries to fight them the only way it can, by producing beta amyloid. And that in turn drives Alzheimer's disease. So the stronger your immune system and the fewer infections you experience, the longer your brain can keep functioning well. Yes, we all carry many viruses and bacteria in our bodies, but a strong immune system keeps them in check. Balanced nutrition, healthy sleep, regular exercise, and preventive care – that's what keeps your inner viral and bacterial zoo under control. Studies show that people who engage in any kind of physical activity intense enough to make them sweat, at least 2.5 hours per week in total, have a much lower risk of dementia. This conclusion came from a study that followed over 10,000 people for 28 years. Another large review of 19 studies with more than 400,000 participants observed for 15 years showed that the risk of dementia is 2 times higher in people who had no physical activity for the 10 years leading up to the onset of the disease. In other words, if you don't exercise, don't enjoy walking, don't cycle, or simply avoid any physical activity, your risk of developing Alzheimer's is nearly twice as high compared to those who move regularly. So maybe it's time to dust off those dumbbells and finally clear the clutters off your exercise bike. Movement engages a huge part of the brain. Large areas of the brain are dedicated to controlling motion, and when you move, those areas are actively working. Physical activity also improves blood circulation in the brain and lowers cholesterol. So if you used to dislike workouts because they made you sweat and feel tired, remember this: every drop of sweat is you running away from dementia. Hopefully that thought will motivate you to keep moving. The most romantic protective factor against Alzheimer's is your partner. Studies have shown that single people or those who have lost their spouse are at higher risk of developing Alzheimer's. This may have a lot to do with depression, which often occurs if you are lonely and can in turn contribute to dementia. So even if your partner sometimes annoys you, there is still plenty to be grateful for. You've walked a long road together, you look out for each other, and this bond helps protect your brains from dementia. So by the end of this video, go give your loved one a hug. If you are single, that doesn't necessarily mean you are at risk, especially if you have an active social life, spend time with your children or your friends, and don't suffer from depression. A fulfilling and connected life is just as protective. It's important to take care not only of your physical health, but also your mental well-being. Depression can be a trigger for many serious conditions, including dementia, so don't underestimate it. Every day, new data emerges about what may trigger Alzheimer's disease and what may help protect us from it. If we put it all together, we arrive to 3 key ideas. First one, blood vessels. Poor blood supply to the brain leads to the buildup of those harmful proteins. Normally, these proteins are present in small amounts, but healthy blood vessels help clear them out. That means strong blood vessels are the foundation of healthy aging. To keep them in good shape, we need proper nutrition, daily physical activity, and good control of cholesterol, diabetes, and high blood pressure. The second one is immune system. A weakened immune system, along with untreated, lingering viral and bacterial infections, can contribute to Alzheimer's. Third, the principle of use it or lose it. The less you use your brain, the higher your risk of problems later on. Memory, attention, reading, emotions, communication, movement, sleep, use them all. And don't worry about overworking your brain. At any age, you need new tasks, new information, new challenges, and new emotions. Think of it this way. If tomorrow you decide to stop walking, sit on the couch, and refuse to move, eventually your body will stop supporting these functions. You will not be able to walk anymore. Why maintain what you don't use? The same goes for your brain. When you engage in any mental activity that requires focus and effort, blood flow increases in the brain region you are using right now. That means more oxygen and nutrients are delivered, while waste products and junk are cleared more effectively. For example, as I'm speaking right now, my speech area is active, drawing in extra blood, extra oxygen and glucose. At the same time, my auditory cortex is working as I listen to myself, making sure the sound come out right. I hope so, at least. My hippocampus, deep under the cortex, is active as I recall what I want to say, along with memory-related areas. Meanwhile, my lips, tongue, and vocal cords are moving, so my motor cortex, right above the ear, is firing too. In other words, right now, there is a little oxygen and glucose party happening in all the regions of my brain connected to speech and hearing. There would be even more activity if I were dancing right now. The more often you activate different parts of your brain, the better it functions. I believe that in the coming years we'll see faster diagnostic methods for Alzheimer's and dementia and hopefully effective and affordable treatments. But even then, prevention will always be easier than cure. So treat infections on time, especially in the head and neck area. Challenge your brain daily and take care of your blood vessels. Stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next videos.